Good evening. Welcome to Brummett Jewelry Design Studio. You're with Mimi and I tonight for Shop Live with Mimi and Russ.
Hey,
However,
everybody.
tonight's format's going to be a little different. We're not really doing a shopping show tonight. As we stated earlier, we are doing and featuring people from North Carolina, businesses. We're also tonight featuring a local artist, and we're featuring a local brewery, which is right up the street from us. It's one of our favorite places that we will introduce them and kind of do some interviews and talks tonight and learn about an artist and what he does. And we'll talk about a brewery and how they do it and how they came up with it. So we hope you'll stay with us, and we hope that you'll definitely enjoy tonight's show. What do you think?
Okay,
Amy?
absolutely. We've been promoting Made in North Carolina. So we have Chris from the Sneaky Penguin, and he's going to tell you about their brewery. They're neighbors right down the street from our studio. And we have Dan Dye, who is in the Village of Yesteryear, definitely made in NC. And we've celebrated some other local businesses throughout the month. So this is our last episode of Made in North Carolina, and we thank everybody for watching. If you will share this, we would appreciate it. It's going to be a really interesting interview, and I know I have relatives that live around the country that we like to share things about North Carolina. They love the Our State magazine, so that might be something you could do to share with someone to watch about 30 minutes of information.
Exactly.
Okay.
So tonight we're going to feature again the Sneaky Penguin, which is a fantastic brewery. It's located at Celebration of Six Forks, on Six Forks, that is, on Six Forks Road. And we're going to introduce Chris. He's going to come up, and we're going to talk about his beer and ask him some questions. So we hope you'll enjoy it. Also, while you're watching, if you have any questions for either one of our artists tonight, then you're welcome to send us that, and we'll be happy to try to answer that for you. So here's Chris. And he is from the Sneaky Penguin. So how did you come up with that name?
So the name came from when I was homebrewing. People always wanted to know what I called myself, and I didn't have a name. So I got to thinking, and I was doodling, watching cartoons with my daughter one day, and I drew the penguin logo.
I'm glad I'm not the only adult who still likes to watch cartoons.
Yeah, and yeah, so we thought it looked sneaky, and the name just kind of stuck.
Yeah.
It's kind of unique and clever and fun, and that's what we like to do.
He's got a great logo. You can see it on his shirt. In fact, you can see his shirt there. It's a little penguin. He bought us these wonderful little huggers tonight, and so we're going to kind of talk a little bit about beer. I've been into his store quite a few times. They do a lot of great events. They do some trivia, and what else do you do up there besides trivia events?
We do trivia. We do the third Thursday of the month. We do a free comedy show. And then we do a bunch of other events. We do some dog rescue fundraising events. We just we have a singles night every once in a while.
Do you do that where you do the table stuff like that, or
The speed dating, we did kind of a version of that.
You went one time, didn't you? There you go.
So we just like to have fun. We come up with kind of creative events. On Tuesday we have a cheese board class. So if you want to learn
how does that work? What do you do there?
So we have a company that brings all the supplies, and she explains how to make a good cheese board for your parties.
That's pretty cool. Do you do private events? Can people like rent your place at all?
We haven't done full rentals yet, but if you're looking for a place to have a happy hour or meet up after work, we can do table reservations. Or if there's a time that's kind of outside of our normal hours, we'll work with groups. If they want to have a business meeting or have us stay open late, we can do that.
And they've got inside and outside seating. You've got quite a bit of outside seating. You've got a very good
we have
location
a great patio that kind of overlooks Six Forks. We've got some nice lighting tables. And
there's some good restaurants near him, too, so you can go have some great beer and order food, and everything works out great. You don't have to go anywhere. But anyway, tell us a little about your beer. He brought a few beers for us to
speaking of
sample.
great beer,
Thank God.
So first up, we got our new Oktoberfest, our Mars of the Penguin. So it's
Mars of the Penguin.
Mars of the Penguin. So this is a nice little malty, crisp amber lager.
Beautiful color.
Yeah, so it's got great color.
Thank goodness for Oktoberfest. Right?
Yeah. We're going to even let our
Thank you, Jonas.
our producer back here, Dan, if you could try this. Dan's sitting there drooling, going, where am I going to get my glass?
I need to not drink too much before I get on there.
Oh, it's easy, right?
Yeah, so it's a nice, clear, crisp, little toffee, a little crackers on the nose, and
Oh, it smells great.
How long does it take to make a Marzen?
so a Marzen.
That's
This
wonderful.
so
What time
this
y'all close tonight?
we close at 9:00 tonight.
We got plenty of time.
Head up after the show. Yeah, so this sat in the fermenter for 9 weeks. So an Oktoberfest likes to kind of age and clear up and kind of just develop its flavor over time. The average beer sits in the fermenter for about 2.5 weeks.
Where do you get most of your grains? Is it North Carolina, from out of country, out of state?
So most of our grains come from Delaware.
Delaware.
So we work with a malt provider out of Delaware.
Okay.
But then we've also started to get some grains from kind of all over the country.
Are you seeing that more farmers may be getting into more grains? Because it seems like that the breweries like yours are popping up a lot. People wanting to have nice craft beers as opposed to the stuff we get in the grocery store, which is not very good compared to this. Are you think that's going to happen?
Yeah, so North Carolina has definitely been increasing their malt production. We are looking into getting some more local malt for some of our upcoming brews, because obviously we want to support local as much as we can.
That's great. That's a really good start.
Yeah.
How many cans of beer are in one batch?
So our batch size, we're a 7-barrel brewery. So 7 barrels is about 220 gallons.
Wow.
So it's a lot of beer. We just finished our 53rd brew. So we've brewed quite a bit of beer over the past year. And actually we're celebrating our 1-year anniversary on October 14th. So if you're in town and looking for something fun to do, come out. We've got raffles, got food vendors.
Wow.
And
That's what date?
October 14th.
October
It's a
14th.
Saturday from 12 to 6. We'll have 3 new beer releases that day as well.
I was going to ask you, do you maintain a particular style beer constantly, or is it always changing? Or do you have favorites, or do your customers have favorites that you always have?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay.
I like experimenting. I like
Fantastic.
trying new things, and because there's always new malts, new hops, new flavors you can create. So we tend to stay with style specific. So we might do a Pilsner, but then the next time we brew a Pilsner, it might be a little different. Or same with IPAs, using different ingredients.
What's the weirdest ingredient you've used in making a beer?
The weirdest ingredient so far,
Like pickles or...
I haven't used pickles yet.
I do like a pickle beer, actually.
We get a lot of our flavors just from hops. Hops have a lot of unique flavors you can get out of them. We just released our pumpkin beer, so we use 80 pounds of pumpkin puree for that.
See, I think that's... I would consider that.
Are the hops or malts, are they toasted, or anything done to them at all before?
So the malt is kilned through the malt provider. So that's how you get different roast.
That's going to vary the flavor depending
Yep.
on what they do to it. Is
Yep.
that
So
correct?
it's kind of like coffee or toast. The longer you toast it, the more burnt and more flavors it gets.
Wow, I
So
didn't realize that.
hops are they're grown. They're little cones that they pulverize and then put into little pellets that we use. But they're always crossbreeding them and coming up. It's kind of like a tomato, how many different tomato varieties there are. It's just like hops. They all have different things and different flavors.
Gabrielle and I went on the tour of Sierra Nevada in April. We were in Asheville, and I just will never forget the smell of that hops room. It was interesting. They had all these bins, and they're sticky,
Yep.
and they just have such a pungent and unique smell, and the room was very cold.
Yep, you want to keep hops cold, and they have a lot of oils. That's kind of where you get your flavor from, and each hop it's got different aroma, different smell, different flavor.
Wow.
My staff like trying to guess which hop is what when I'm using them, so they'll come over and they'll smell them.
That's neat.
Some are getting pretty good at guessing which ones are which, but other ones have no idea.
How many different hops do you use?
I've probably used over 100 different hops.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, this beer has, I think, 2 different hops in it. But an IPA can have 5 or 6 different hops. So over 50 brews, they add up.
Yeah. Explain a traditional lager versus an IPA. Tell people the different processes and why they're different.
So the main difference between them, the process of brewing them is the same. You still mash the grains to get the sugar, and then you boil it, you add your hops, and then when you ferment it, a lager gets a lager yeast, which is bottom fermenting. Likes colder temperature and longer time. It takes longer. Where IPAs or ales are top fermenting yeast, and they ferment pretty quick.
That's fantastic.
We both work with fun sciences, don't we?
Yes.
Different, very different.
It's science and art.
I think all three of us tonight are somewhat scientists, but also artists, because you're producing something, you're creating something, and so are you, and so am I.
Yeah.
We're doing different things, but we're all producing something that hopefully people enjoy and like. And I can tell you one thing: we do enjoy their beer, and this one's really good. Their Oktoberfest. One last question: Do you have your product in any grocery stores or any shops that people go? Or do they need to come only to your Sneaky Penguin Brewery?
Right now, just at Sneaky Penguin,
Okay.
we are in just 2 or 3 different bottle shops in the area. We're looking at expanding a little bit, but just trying to keep the beer flowing at the tap room right now.
Good. Do it right. Do it for yourself.
Yeah.
Good. Well, Chris, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for this beer. And glad to know you're open a little later tonight, because when we finish, we may come see you again. Who knows? But
Yeah. Well, thank you for
wonderful
having
evening.
me.
You're very welcome.
Great little shop here.
Make sure you go see the Sneaky Penguin on Six Forks Road. Fantastic brewery. If you have an event, if you have some friends, or just want to get together and do something different, it's a great spot.
And order a great pizza from Perry,
Perry
Brothers.
Brothers, that's right.
Yes.
And you also have a great little Oriental restaurant next
Yeah.
to you, right?
Faux sure.
Yeah, very good. So,
One stop.
All right.
one-stop shop. Thanks again, Chris.
All right. Well, thank you
Have a
guys.
blessed night. Thank you for the beer.
You're welcome.
We recognize that people's jewelry is personal and special to them, and it's a treasure. And they want to have trust in who they take it to. They want to know they can bring it here, that we're going to take good care of it just like it's ours, and that we're going to give them the advice like we would give to a family member. We want to treat every client that way.
I think my whole purpose here is to create beautiful jewelry that's lasting. And the joy that can continue with somebody else is important. I've been asked, what is your favorite piece you've ever designed? I can't answer that question. It's impossible. Because if I've designed the best piece, why do I need to create anything else? Each piece I make is my best piece. My next piece is my best piece. How can I stop? And we're back. Now we have our friend, and we've known for a very long time, Dan Dye. Dan Dye is a local artist. He's an artist in the sense of he's an illustrator, he is a painter, and he is a jeweler like me. His techniques of what he does is a little bit different. Dan works in silver, and he hand fabricates everything, where typically I'm doing anything from hand carving, waxes, and casting, and doing CAD CAM work, and some hand fabrication. But Dan does it the old way, the artist way. He does everything by hand. We're going to show you some of his pieces tonight and show you some of his artwork and his jewelry. And you may recognize Dan. He's been at the Village of Yesteryear for about half your life, haven't you?
Yeah, 37 years. I turned 74 this summer, and here now I've spent half my life.
The Village of Yesteryear, if you don't know, if you're not from North Carolina, we have a large state fair, the North Carolina State Fair, every year in October. And they have a village there. It's called the Village of Yesteryear, where a lot of the local artists from North Carolina have a booth set up there where they show their wares. And a lot of them dress like antique. They do some old handcraft stuff. They'll dress.
Well,
tell a little bit about it. Some of the
We
costumes.
have we dress, some of us dress colonial,
Yeah.
which for men means knee breeches, socks, kind of a loose shirt, maybe a vest. I usually wear an apron in case I get something hot on my lap.
Yeah.
You've done that. You know
yeah.
how that goes.
Because you're working. While he's there, he's also
Yeah.
working, doing his art and doing his pieces. So.
Yeah, okay. Here's a picture from 2 years ago that they gave me. I was the president of the Village of Yesteryear for 22 years. And I finally said, okay, it's time for somebody younger to step up and become the president. So this photograph is from my second year there in '87. And this was 2 years ago. There is a bit of an aging process going on, but it was interesting. The guy that took the picture had me pose the same way as I had posed in '87. So Walter Creech was his name, is his name. It was really nice to be honored in that way for my years as president.
Yep.
And I appreciated that. All the people that were there signed it for me, and so that hangs in my studio. So I have that in my memory.
That's very nice.
So
very
yeah,
nice
it
they
was.
did that,
It was very nice. I appreciated it.
That's so sweet to have that.
That really is. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your jewelry. As I said, Dan hand
Mimi, would
fabricates.
you hand me the wire and sheet right there?
So he's going to show you kind of what he does and talk a little bit about it. So I'm going to let him take over. I'm going to sit back and enjoy and watch what
Yeah.
you're saying, what you're doing.
Well, I call myself a silversmith. I think that's from the word to smite, smith.
Yeah.
So you're a blacksmith, you're a tinsmith. In our
Gold-
case,
goldsmith, yeah.
goldsmith, silversmith.
Yeah.
I do a lot with a hammer. This is probably my go-to hammer. Now this hammer I love because this belonged to my wife's great-grandfather, who was a goldsmith in New York City
Wow. That's
in
pretty
1905. Unfortunately, the business went away with the Depression.
cool. Yeah.
So this is all we have left. But it's a beautiful hammer, and I just think it's cool to have a hammer that's 130-some years old.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
Here, feel the heft on that. And this is another really nice hammer. This is a Fretz, Bill Fretz designed these. He's a goldsmith. Beautiful hammer. It feels good in your hand. I love that hammer, but this is my go-to. Anyway,
Are they all called hammers, or do they have specific names for what type of?
well, I have a big Fretz hammer that's called a sledge. It's like a little sledgehammer, but it's so massive, I don't use it as much as I thought I would when I bought it. Don't tell my wife. Nancy didn't hear that. What I start with, everything that I make is either wire or sheet. And I brought 2 pieces of each. This is 20 gauge sterling silver sheet. I take it and cut out different shapes with a saw, fine jewelry saw. And then these are 2 of the different types of wire that I use. It's all sterling silver. Actually, I'm using a sterling that was developed 30 years ago. It's called Argentium. That's the name that they're marketing under. Argent is Latin for silver. So they took that name and to give it some pizzazz. What it is, typical sterling silver in the States is 92.5% silver and 7.5% copper. Some countries, they use nickel instead of copper. You run into that sometimes in Mexico. Unfortunately, a lot of people react to nickel. So I've always bought the silver with sterling in it, with copper in it. This one was developed, and it only has 5% copper versus 7.5%. Then it has 93.5% silver, and then the balance is a metal called germanium, which is used in electronics because it doesn't oxidize.
Yeah, so this metal does not tend to tarnish like a lot of the Mexican silvers.
It stays a lot brighter.
It does.
Now,
It really does.
pure-
I use the same metal.
Yeah, pure silver will oxidize given enough time in the right conditions. But it stays much shinier, which I like because I don't have to be polishing this stuff all the time. Certainly my customers like it.
Yeah, exactly.
The other advantage to me is that I can fuse a lot of this with my torch. I use an acetylene torch. Instead of using a lot of solder, I just fuse it. Like this necklace is 2 pieces or 2 different shapes of silver. This is 8 gauge round. That's what this was. And then that's a half round. It's flat on one side and round on the other. It's the widest half round wire I can buy. And I fuse this together. So there's no solder in this. So it's uniformly the bright colored, no gray solder showing because there isn't any in it.
It's a beautiful necklace.
So how much do you sell that for, Dan?
This one is $250.
All handmade. And
And-
how long does it take you to make something like that?
It takes, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours
Yeah.
probably from start to finish, polishing and everything.
And it's solid. It's not hollow
it's
like all the
solid,
stuff
yeah.
you see.
Great
there.
feel.
Yeah.
And it's
weighty.
it really looks nice around the neck. Would you model for me,
You
Mimi?
can also adjust it to fit people as
Yeah.
well.
Put this on, put that, can you
Turn
aim
it
that
towards them.
to
There you
her? Yeah.
Your
you
collar's
go.
kind of sitting on it, but yeah, it
Yeah.
lays beautifully.
I like it up on the shoulder like that and then down in front. I think it's real graceful
That's
looking.
really
It's
cool.
beautiful. I love the curve. It's a
Yeah.
sexy piece.
That's right. That's right.
Put you a big
Come down over there, Russ.
Put you a big cabochon stone in there as well too. Be
Well,
beautiful.
you could do that. Yeah, I could do that.
You could put somebody a beautiful amethyst right there in that little space
Yep.
and
Yep.
dress it up. You want. It's
Dress it,
beautiful.
bring it
piece.
right out.
And you
See
got
that
some,
he is a designer. See?
so you've got some rings as well there.
I do. I have these are 3 different of the Argentium rings that I did little nuts and bolts and little odd pieces, and this one has a kind of the curvature like the necklace, which
So you can kind of see. We don't have the light
good.
box tonight like we normally do, but I hope
Yeah.
you can see those okay.
It's turning up.
But you can see the again, he's making all of these by hand. Each one's different too. I don't
That's
think
right.
You can't really reproduce the exact
no,
ring
I
again,
don't.
so
I learned a long time ago that I really enjoy the production process, fabrication.
that's really cool.
Now, the thing I like about this is if a woman is wearing that, I like it up on his knuckle like that. But if she's going to the car in the dark, flip it around, put it on
It's a
back
weapon.
on your finger, and
Yeah.
it's a
It's a weapon.
know,
Protection device.
get away from me, you bad guy. You know. So
Very good looking ring. Good
Who
looking.
is
No.
the Marvel character with the claws?
oh, the Catwoman.
Or the guy that
No, Wolverine.
That's Wolverine.
Yeah. Okay.
Now,
Okay.
again, let's get back into some
How
art.
much the,
Okay.
the
Yeah,
rings,
how much the
I have
rings
2
are?
questions.
Oh.
Price ranges of those.
Those rings, can they be sized, or would you make one for a client if those?
I could size them. It's easier to stretch a little bit than it is to shrink it. Shrink it, I have to cut it and
Yeah.
and refuse it.
All the
This
fun
piece though is open on the side, so I can make that fit anybody.
Yeah.
And so what do you sell
And
those?
that one's 130. This one's 90, and this one's 85.
So you go from
So-
$85. This one's $90.
Love the texture.
Great. I do love the texture on that one.
Yeah.
And the weapon.
Yeah, right. The claw.
That's one.
Yeah.
The claw is 130.
Yeah.
That's a great name of the claw.
Yeah, well, I had actually a customer who grew up here in Raleigh, but lives out in San Francisco. She bought the first one, and that's what she called it. So
There
I
you
thought,
go.
okay,
And again, speaking of North Carolina,
Yes.
shop
Oh,
local.
yeah, there you go.
Here's a wonderful piece he made. Here's our famous dog flower, which is our state flower,
the dogwood.
the dogwood. And there's a beautiful rendition. It's all handmade. Tell them
Yep.
how you made this.
Well, here again, the petals are from sheet silver, and the leaves, and I sawed them all out. I hammered them all with a different hammer. It's called a cross peen hammer. It's like a chisel on a stick. There are striations in the back. I hammered it on a wooden stump.
It looks really just
And
like the flower.
which
It's
gives
amazing.
it the veins. These little beads are fine silver, so they melt at a higher temperature. They're all welded to a smaller, to a bigger bead, and then soldered in place or
beautifully
welded
done.
in place. Iron sheet.
So that's
and
a
lots of
classic,
hours.
classic North Carolina piece that,
That is.
every woman would enjoy. I guess.
Actually, this was featured in this and another flower were featured in our state magazine
Fantastic.
4 or 5 years ago.
That's great. Now, what does a piece like that sell for?
This one is well, tag fell off.
That
That's it. Yeah, 425.
$425.
Has a lot more
Hand-
time in that.
Handmade sterling silver flower by Dan Dye. That's beautiful.
And this will be going with me to the fair,
Yep.
which
So,
opens on the 12th.
anything you see here tonight, if it's not sold before then, will be at the state fair. And he's going to have a lot of pieces at the state fair that you can see and enjoy. So if you go to the North Carolina State Fair, definitely go by the Village of Yesteryear and see Dan and the rest of the artisans there.
Oh yeah, we have about
Wonderful people.
70, 80 different arts and crafts people there. So
Here's another bracelet that I love that you did. Again,
Yeah.
he's got a cabochon stone, which is turquoise, I believe.
it's turquoise from Cerrillos, New Mexico. Just
Beautiful.
south of Santa Fe, about 25 miles.
Again, designed to fit the wrist properly. It's easily adjustable the
Yes.
way he's designed this piece.
Yeah.
You know, a bold piece, but I think very elegant, very tailored. Could be worn every day anyway.
Well, the inspiration for this, I had people that would bring Native American bracelets to me with a stone in the middle, and they're like a watch. They're soldered solid on either side, and invariably people will try to squeeze it to make it fit their wrist. Over time, metal gets fatigued
Bends and
and it
breaks.
cracks. So with this, I call this a peninsula mount. I designed this. The whole stone is suspended right here. See, it's mounted so that it's connected in the one place. So the whole bracelet will flex, and the stone basically stays in place.
Plays in place, yeah.
So
The other
I've
cool
not had a
thing-
problem with
The
that.
other cool thing, I think you did it because you're slightly offset here.
Yeah.
To put it on the wrist, it's going to be easier, which means you don't have to bend it as
That's
much
right.
either. So
That's right.
That's a great design. That's from an artist who's done this over the years.
Yeah,
and
one up, one
figured out,
down.
Figured out a way to do it better than the other guy.
That's right.
And that's the same thing we do. I've come up with bracelet ideas that
Oh, yeah.
work different
Yeah.
because the problems that I saw people have.
Right.
That's the same thing.
And that's what we're doing. We're trying to fix a problem before
Exactly.
it becomes one.
So there you go.
So, yeah.
That's
And
fantastic.
I imagine that's a unisex style. Just
It
with the
would be,
turquoise.
although women tend to go for that more.
Yeah.
The guys like big, chunky, bulky stuff, and I do that. But
You got a cool bracelet on. You made a long time ago. You
I
wore that
made
for
that.
quite a few years. I've
I
seen.
made this bracelet in 1974, living on the eastern shore of Maryland.
How about that?
Looking out a window one day, and the Canada geese were flying by in formation. And I got this idea from all the geese lined up behind each other.
It's very
And
cool.
it's flexible, and yeah, it's worn well.
Yeah, it's a great looking bracelet.
I call it a V-link bracelet.
That's pretty,
And
pretty cool.
there are a number of guys all around the country that have one of these now.
That's great.
So, yeah.
One other pretty piece I want you to
Okay.
see again. I love your motifs. This is the dragonfly that everybody recognizes. What a beautiful piece, and the texture of the wings is very interesting. How did you get the texture?
Well,
You didn't hammer it, I can tell you that.
no, I didn't hammer that. It's got a lot of little, a dragonfly wing is kind of like a little stained glass window, although it's generally clear. I took a piece of lace, cotton lace, and ran it through what's called a rolling mill. It's kind of like grandmother's wringer washing machine.
Oh yeah.
You put the lace on top of a sheet of silver, just this stuff, and I cut them out at first, and then I pushed it through the rolling mill, and it crushed the lace into the silver.
It's amazing how the lace would do that.
Yeah, you
But
wouldn't think it would hold.
but-
No, it crushes it,
Yeah.
but I can buy more lace.
Oh yeah.
So-
That's pretty cool.
So I thought that was really a good way to use
idea.
It
that.
looks fantastic. It's also a time saving as opposed to having to hammer that.
Oh God, and you wouldn't
Take
even
forever.
begin to do that. This is a pair of earrings that has that same sort of thing with lace
Very cool.
in the earrings.
Are you telling prices?
We did the dragonfly,
It's so
Beautiful
pretty.
little piece, yeah.
and
That's made in how many pieces?
well, there are.
You got the body, the head.
The body, actually, the tail is a segmented tail. So I took little pieces of the 8-gauge wire and made little segments and then fused them back together. And it has a little pincher on the end. So I split that with my saw. So it's, well, of course, 4 wings and then the body, and it's 10 or so
Yeah.
pieces.
So
Again,
that-
it's fabricated.
it's
It's
a
not
great value.
cast.
Beautiful
Yeah.
piece.
Yeah.
Very artistic.
The bracelet
Oh,
and the dogwood.
yeah. This bracelet, again, I ran it through with a piece of cloth in that case, pressed kind of a pattern of fabric into it, and then fused the wire on either side and then hammering it around. And that's $225 for that one.
Nice piece. Very nice. The texture.
That's that's a good North Carolina piece.
Put it
Yeah.
on, wear it,
Yeah.
forget about it.
That's right.
I imagine
That's right.
there would be
Fantastic.
people that would love to put a monogram on.
Well, that could easily be done.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Now, this is an interesting piece. It's a pendant, and you could run a choker through the wire or a chain. This is chrysocolla, which is like a cousin to turquoise. A lot of copper in chrysocolla. It's found out in the Southwest where there's a lot of copper mining. It's kind of a byproduct from copper mining. When I get a stone like this, and particularly from this one guy that I buy it from, he polishes the back for me, and so I can expose it. And so in this case, I made a secret garden on the backside
So you reverse it.
with
Have
the
two
leaves.
pieces of jewelry.
That's right. It's got the little trumpet vines and leaves and flowers and
Wow, that's beautiful.
so it can you can flip it over either way.
Wow,
My
nice
maker's
detail.
mark is inside the bail at the top, on the inside. It's stamped Dan Dye and Sterling.
Very cool.
I'm not Tommy Hilfiger. I don't require my name to be across the front.
That's very
That's
clever.
really beautiful. Sorry, we're doing it this way tonight where you can't really see it. Normally do the light box, you can really get a good look. But
see it.
look how beautiful that stone is.
Yeah, isn't that pretty?
How much does that sell for?
It's good. That's $325.
Wow, the
Okay.
A
detail.
lot of time
I don't
on
know
that.
if you mentioned the price of the turquoise bracelet.
The detail is amazing on that.
The turquoise is $295.
Okay. Do we need Nancy here to tell the prices?
Yes, that's what her
her
job will
job.
be for me here
That's
coming
right.
up pretty soon.
So when you get to the
We,
fair,
we didn't
basically,
show them this
yeah,
piece.
let's
did
show them that too.
we? Yeah, this.
Dan will be working, and his wife will be trying to sell them, right?
That's right. It's hard for me to demonstrate, which is one of the things in the village. We're all expected to demonstrate our craft, show people how we do it. I think it adds value to it. When people see you working,
Yeah,
they go, "Man, that's a lot to that."
yeah.
Whatever it is you're doing.
But you're trying to
So-
teach the heritage of,
That's right.
of crafts in our
Handmade
state.
pieces. Yeah.
I've had people come and just spend a half a day just looking at me and asking questions and all that, which I enjoy.
Yeah.
That's nice.
You know, particularly when they're kids. I've had a few kids that one young man bought hammers and he makes jewelry too.
That's great. If you
Was
can
neat.
influence the next generation,
That's right. That's
very-
right. Well, I have two granddaughters, and they're both interested in learning how to make
There you
jewelry.
go.
One of them, the senior in high school, has already made some rings. So
Fantastic.
I'm real proud of her for doing that.
Good for her.
This is a Carolina jasmine. It's a yellow trumpet flower that blooms in the springtime around here. And I made this necklace a couple of years ago with this in mind. We had one growing on a
Yeah,
trellis at our house. It's maybe not as much of an everyday necklace as the other one would be,
Mimi, why
but,
don't you try this one on too?
but as a real showstopper, this would definitely be a
That's
showstopper.
really cool. Again, all handmade,
Yeah.
very authentic looking. I mean, it looks realistic.
Well, I get the real flower when I can, and in this case I did.
Squeeze it.
And yeah, come on in.
Can you see that?
So you see, that would be bent and adjusted to fit whoever's neck.
Right,
Make sure.
it can. But as you saw, she went it behind her back, so you only open up as wide as your neck to get it in
You don't
place.
go.
Yeah, you don't need to do
No,
that.
you don't do that.
It feels wonderful. All of his pieces are just we say they have a good heft.
Yeah. Well, it has to be
Just-
comfortable. Or you're not going to wear it. It's going to end up in a box.
It is not lightweight, thin metal.
No, not at all.
Everything is beautiful.
I don't like flimsy stuff. I like it to have some body to it.
So,
Well, your realism and the look of your pieces, Dan, they're beautiful. They're really
Thank you.
beautiful.
Notice the stamen and pistil down in there. I'm crazy about doing the way the flower really grows.
so that's $700
Yep.
on that tag. How
That's
long
right.
would it take you to make
Oh
that?
gosh. You know, when I'm doing
You
something
got
like
several
this,
days in that one.
I do. When I'm doing something like this, I'm not even watching the clock.
Yeah.
I would say several days. It's probably got, I don't know, 20, 25 hours, maybe more. I just do it until I'm happy with it, and then when I'm happy with it, I figure a customer will be.
There you go.
So,
That's the life of an artist.
that's right.
Now, Dan also is an illustrator. There's a couple of books here that I see that I didn't realize you did that. I knew you did some paintings. We got
Show the
some paintings over here as
one of
well.
his paintings.
Here's one of his paintings.
Yeah.
Beautifully done as well.
That's a view from Emerald Isle. We were renting a house down there 30 years ago, I think it was. And I was watching the sunrise, and I thought, well, that'd make a nice painting. So I went out and painted it every morning for about 3 or 4 hours until the sun got so high it wasn't pink
There
anymore.
you go.
And now I come in and have the rest of the day with the family. So I love that painting, though. It's just a,
I love the colors.
love
We
the
had
sun.
a beautiful sunset Sunday. We were in Southport.
oh yeah.
It was. Her face was red. The sun. Was.
Oh wow, that's
Now, tell
spectacular.
us about your books. the
Well, this is
illustrations.
something that I had never done before. I have a niece who was living in Italy. Her husband was in the Air Force, and she and her 2 boys were there with him in a place called Aviano. And they had a neighborhood cat, street cat, that took up with them. The cat's all black. His name's Lucky in America, but over there he was, they call him Lucky, but Katie started writing a book about Lucky the cat and named him Fortuna in her book. Well, there was a house down the street that inspired this old street bum, I guess you'd call him, that came to visit in the story. And so Katie she wrote the chapters. She'd send me a chapter, and then I would do illustrations for them.
Great.
It was all black and white, and I'd never done anything like that before, so it was fun. But then she did a second book last year, and I decided to go color on this one, so it's all watercolored inside. And that's when the cat is leaving his family and comes to live with this old gypsy woman.
Very cool.
So-
Mimi, you're getting into watercolor painting now, so maybe you need to talk to Dan a little bit about
We
that.
were
Yeah.
talking about the painting and the technique and all when he got here.
that's
Appreciate
great.
you bringing the
Oh yeah,
books.
sure enough.
Yeah. Again, please, if you get a chance to go to the North Carolina State Fair, go and visit the Village of Yesteryear.
Right.
Big, large building. You can't miss it. Go in and spend a little time with the artisans there, and especially Dan Dye, and see what he does, and watch him at work. And his wife, Nancy, is a wonderful person. She'll show you some beautiful jewelry as well.
And you mentioned the other artists. What other type of craftsmen are at the Village of Yesteryear?
Well, we have, I don't know the exact count this year, but between 70 and 80 artists and craftspeople. We have people that are painters, potters, basket weavers, pine needle baskets, 4 other jewelry people, a glass blower, and I'm forgetting some other, bunch potters. I'm sure there's more. I'm just drawing a blank. Oh, we have one Native American guy. He's from up in the Warrenton area that does a Native American style of jewelry, silver, but he uses a lot of tortoise shell, and he uses what's called a wampum shell. It's a quahog clam, purple clam, from our coast that he polishes and then sets in
very interesting
pendants
to see,
and things. Beautiful stuff.
Very interesting.
Really neat. The village is down on the west end of the fairgrounds, down right across the street from the garden area, the garden club of Wake County.
The pretty part of the fair.
The pretty part of the fair.
It's really, and also the animals on that side down.
There are
as well.
there used to be some rabbits. I don't know where they are now, but yeah,
They move the bunnies.
yeah,
Right. And your bio mentions that you will do custom design work.
I do. Yes, I do custom. The nice thing about custom is that you have a soul when you make it. I really enjoy the creativity though of designing things that I want to do, and I've been doing this for 52 years, so I have a pretty good idea of what I'm going to do when I get started. And a lot of times people will say, they'll have an idea, but they really don't know how to flesh it out and make it real. And I'm sure you run into
You
that all
have
the
to
time.
interpret, kind of figure out what they want.
Exactly. Try to read their mind, which doesn't always work, but we try.
That's right.
And then, do you make household items?
I do. Well, I do have several things I didn't bring with me, but
I got a picture of your swivel stick.
oh, you do. You're gonna
And
put
some
that on?
ornaments. Yep.
Yes. Is that the one that's the palm? Yes. I made that for my son-in-law who was born and raised in Florida. It's a palm tree with a coconut palm and coconuts, and you flip it upside down, put it down in the glass, and then roll your hands together.
Clever.
And there's a bead at the bottom that keeps it from sliding out through your palm. So that's the only one of those I've ever made. I made that for my daughter Melissa to give to Brian.
Very cool.
The Dan and Nancy, or Nancy and Dan ornament there at the top right, I made for her for our 50th wedding anniversary 2 years ago. It has a gold heart in it, and across the bottom it says 1971 and 2021 for our 50th anniversary. Or as I told all our friends at church, we'd been married 100 years.
Yeah, that's right. 22
And the
of
minister got up and announced that to the congregation. And I said, well, I did 50 years and Nancy did 50 years, so that makes 100.
them. That's right.
But we have that hanging in a prominent place in our house right now.
Very nice. Very nice.
And then the last question I have,
Yes.
the ring that you have on, you told
Oh.
me a fascinating story about this ring.
This one, we were on a cruise we started in Venice and ended in Barcelona. And part of the trip, we were in a place called Cinque Terre. It's western Italy, real close to Pisa. And there's a lot of, Cinque Terre is 5 little fishing villages on the western coast, real irregular shape shoreline, and high, and they did a lot of terracing there in order to have somewhere to grow their gardens and vineyards and whatnot. So I picked this stone out of the Mediterranean and slabbed it, cut it with a diamond saw, and it was dark purple and black and had a little bit of white in it. The Carrara Mountains, where Michelangelo got his stone for the Pietà and things like that.
It's good enough for him, huh?
Good enough for him is good enough for me. So I fished that out. Nancy's saying, Dan, quit stealing their rocks. I said, they're out there making millions of them right now in the ocean. I can't steal them all. So I did come home with about a half a dozen. But so I mounted the stone in it, and then I terraced the side here. So that's the design for the ring. It's a delicate little dainty thing, but I like it. So,
Very cool.
I love your inspiration.
well, things come from, they don't just fall out of the sky. They come from an experience somewhere. Or in your case, your customer that had a particular need and you designed something to fit her little wrist.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
You figure out ideas to make things work, and
Yeah.
again, that's part of being an artist. It's part of being a craftsman. It's
Right.
part of just making things work. And Dan, we really appreciate
Yeah.
you coming to see
Well,
us
I
tonight.
enjoyed it. I appreciate the
We'll look-
invitation.
we'll look forward to
I've
seeing
had a
you
good time
again.
tonight,
Yeah.
and I appreciate.
Got to taste some
getting to
good
be here.
beer.
Yeah, I like that beer. I'm gonna have to get Melissa over there before she
Yeah, I think-
she leaves.
They're still open till 9.
I know, but I gotta get home first.
Here you go.
Thanks for listening, y'all.
Appreciate you joining us tonight. We hope you enjoyed our segment with the Sneaky Penguin and our friend Dan Dye. May you have a great week. God bless you. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Got some special things coming up for October that we're getting ready for the Christmas season, and we got a few special items we're going to bring up and show you over the next few weeks that we're making. Again, like Dan, we're trying to come up with ideas of things that are unique, that are different, that you're not going to see everywhere else, that's going to be personal to you, that you can enjoy and have a great time with. So thanks again for joining us. Mimi's walking around. You want to come by and say hello?
Good
Goodbye. Good night. Thanks again, folks. We'll see you next time. God bless you.